last time.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, don't sit down. Oh, well, I guess I'll ask. This is the opportunity for anybody that's not on the agenda to have any comments or questions, or we can't act on them, or we can take them under advisement, talk about them at our next meeting. So is there anybody here that's not on the agenda? Mr. Meyer.
I got a couple updates from River Hills. We have met and we have moved the annual meeting to the dinner to August 17th instead of the 24th. So you might mark your calendars on that. And now I also want to take my hat off and tell you about RDA. The legislature included $500 million in the biennium for, it's not called community, it's called Community Connections. It's really Ready .20. And it's going to be state money, so it's not going to have a lot of the attachments that had with the feds and Ready .1, but I will ask that you think about some projects. I know we've talked, Randy, and if you don't play, you can't win. So, you know, you can't write it down on a piece. You can't write it down on a piece of napkin and say, "Here's what we want to do." You've got to have your I's dotted and your T's crossed. But I'm sure that there's going to be. It's going to be a little different than last. We still don't know the specifics yet, but we do know that there's going to be $500 million again.
But you don't have any deadline dates for some?
Not yet. Not yet.
All right. So
the IDC's right now is making the rules, trying to come up with. It'll probably be similar to Ready One, but we don't know.
And so one of the things that River Hills has talked about is maybe getting us potential help for rural communities such as ours with some of that technical writing ability that so critical on these applications. So there could be an opportunity for us to get some money to get some help with some
and that is
services.
You pay for it anyway. I mean, and they're very good at what they do. I can't say enough good about the staff we have now at River Hills. They do an excellent job, and they're helping all of the 5 counties, but you've got to use them. You've got to get your act together, and because they're always looking for shovel-ready projects. And I'm sure you saw that Madison got they got a lot of money because they were ready. You know, Destination Madison, they got some on the Overlook and stuff like that. But I'm sure that you saw that town of Charleston got $10 million for the sewage plant. City of Jeffersonville got $10 million for the sewage treatment plant. So I'd say the sky's the limit, but you've got to think out of the box sometimes.
So it's still, so is it not gonna be, you know, because sewer systems for the cities you just talked about it's not a regional thing, so.
Yes.
So you can still apply or, you know, have projects that aren't regional? Because I'm not gonna use their sewer system, so.
Yeah. Well,
But I mean, I know it was kind of for infrastructure and stuff like that, and some broadband and some other stuff.
Well, there's so much money for broadband that they've tried to stay away from broadband. I mean, there's huge amounts of money out there for broadband right now.
Yeah, Okra supplies a lot of funding.
Yeah.
When are they?
It's amazing.
When are they coming out with like the scope of what the money can be used for? Because I know you said it's like Ready One.
Ready One had.
But there were certain projects that were outside the scope in Ready One. Will Ready Two be the exact same? And when will we know?
I don't think there'll be as many strings as there was in Ready One, but I will say that in some of those projects, we were told you were gonna do it by ABC. Actually, we got an additional $5 million. You know, we originally had 47 and we got 5 million extra. Big quality of place is big. I mean, economic development's big too. I know you're meeting with the city, and the schools on the sports project, which to me, it seems like it's a no-brainer, but you gotta look down the road. It's not gonna be something that's gonna materialize in a year or 2 years. It's gonna be, and they're gonna have those, you build it, they'll come. They'll come.
Okay.
But I've looked at other regional development authorities and what they've given money to. It's amazing, to see, like Parks and Recreation, which we don't have a county parks department, but they have given money to different entities like that.
And I'm just wondering if there are projects that we have talked about or looked at, when will we know whether we can apply for those specific projects within this Ready 2.0?
I would say get your act together and go ahead. You don't know unless you try. And I know the money is because there's gotta be a buy-in.
A county match?
Huh?
Like a match that we would have to put in?
I don't know that it's a match. We don't know exactly what they're gonna come down the road and say.
So, most of the things that happen in the legislature doesn't happen till July the 1st anyway, the money's released, so, so I guess we'll wait and see what the next phase or when the.
Well, yeah,
more
but I
criteria
go and
comes
put
in.
my thinking hat on, try to
Yeah.
figure out, hey, here's something we wanna look at, and here's something we have a possibility of doing, and that would benefit Scott County.
Yeah,
And I'm trying to tell everybody that. I know the Fair Board over in Jefferson County, they want to build a new grandstand. Well, you can't build a new grandstand. You gotta have your act together that you're ready to do that, and you're willing to put some skin in the game.
yeah, I know our local fair board has the same plan, so they have a plan for.
But that's something, that will benefit the county.
Yeah,
But I just want to give you an update, and we're meeting May the 12th at IUS, because of graduation at Ivy Tech.
May the 12th at Ivy Tech,
No, at IUS.
IUS.
We're now meeting at Ivy Tech regularly, but they have graduation, I think, that day. So we're gonna meet at IUS,
What time?
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock.
All right. Michelle, you're not giving up your space. So.
Thank you, Steve.
I just need approval to apply for a grant for, 50 car seats. So we recently had an employee that got certified in car seat safety technician. And there's a grant that we can apply for. It doesn't include any money, but we could get up to 50 convertible car seats to give out, if we are awarded, so.
Did you say convertible?
Yeah, so like they can be forward facing or back facing.
Okay.
Not for convert.
So it's 100%.
There's no money, it would just be the physical car seats.
Not talking about the grant.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I think it's
I'm
fine.
all for it.
Okay.
Great idea.
Yeah, I think we get to hear back, middle of this month or end of this month, so.
Yep, I'm good with it, Greg.
And then as far as the Governor's Public Health Commission, it seems like most of the numbers that I presented to you guys last time are gonna be, what was put in place, so I'll be coming to you guys probably in the next meeting or two to, talk about that more in depth and get hopefully some movement on that, so.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you guys.
I got you.
Yes.
Well, that's a shame, so that's everything.
Like always in Scott County, I heard a rumor,
Uh-huh,
and I want to give you a chance to make a comment on it. I heard we was at the, we being the health department,
Mhm.
was at the school inoculating children without the parents, letting the parents know ahead of time that they was gonna be
We were doing what?
inoculated. Giving them shots
Okay, yeah.
without letting the parents know ahead of time that kids was
That's
getting that.
incorrect on multiple levels. The school
Okay.
nurse reached out, they did a school reach call to every eligible child. Our admin assistant personally tried to call any number that the school had on file if the parent didn't respond. And if a child's under the age of 17, we cannot legally vaccinate them without any parent consent.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you guys. Oh, and Governor's Public Health Commission, you guys will get an email from AIC. Next week, there's gonna be a Teams call, just to answer questions for all local officials, auditors, and commissioners.
All right. Yeah, 30 seconds.
All right, thank you. I'm here on behalf of the prosecutor's office to ask for your guys' blessing to look to purchase a vehicle. I think most of you are aware, I don't know, a couple years ago, with your guys' blessing, we got a couple vehicles to be used. They were old vehicles from the sheriff's department, they were old police cars that had basically been retired. We're gonna sit over there, so we got those, we're using them. One of those blew up already. We were told, we had it for a little while, went in to get some work done. The sheriff's department's been great, gracious enough to keep providing the service on that. And the guy had told us, hey, this may last 3 days, it may last 3 years, and I think it was about 3 months, and it went kapooey. So we were down to one. The one that we do have is high mileage still. There's no air conditioning, and that's been like that since the end of last summer. We did look to get it fixed here through the sheriff's mechanic. Couldn't really do it, so we did take it to look to get it fixed somewhere else. I talked to the council about it through a meeting, I don't know, last year. And they said, hey, take it, look to get it seen about. We did, and it's gonna be pretty much as, more to get it fixed in the cars than it's worth doing for the vehicle. So what I'm asking is for your guys' blessing. I can do this, and I know this is more council stuff, but I think I can do it without getting any county general money. We have a child support incentive fund. That money can be used whatever percentage of our caseload is child support. And in March, the last numbers we had, 18% of our caseload was child support cases. So I think I can pay for about 18% out of child support incentive money, and then the remainder I think I can pay for out of pretrial diversion funds that are earmarked for prosecutor's office on money. And so I've gotten some quotes. I talked to John Jones. I got quotes on Dodge Durangos, got quotes on Dodge Chargers, and then I'm gonna be honest, that's a little bit more than I was kind of wanting to spend. Like, the quote for Dodge Charger was a little bit over $38,000. The Durangos were like $48,000, $44,000. So I had them also just look into a Chevy Malibu, and we have a quote for a Chevy Malibu for just under $28,000. And I think, and for what we need, I think Chevy Malibu is we're not out there chasing people or in pursuits or anything like that. We're going to trainings, we're going to crime scenes in usually non-emergency basis. So
Your Chargers and your Challengers are going away this year. So they're all in this last call thing.
Right.
And their prices.
Right.
Available.
Well, and we don't need, and I also want something better on gas mileage than that, honestly.
Yeah.
I think this is a lot better on gas mileage than the Charger is.
So you got the money, you're saying?
Yes.
And quite honestly, it's under the $50,000 threshold, so you really don't need the request, which we appreciate you doing that anyway, because it makes it an easier decision that you've did your homework and research. But so you're saying you'd rather go with the Malibu?
Probably, yes. And I also got one for a Buick Encore originally, which is a smaller SUV, but I think the Chevy Malibu, it's a little bit cheaper, but I think it's plenty for what we need. And this would be used by, according to what we talked about before, myself, I think all of my deputy prosecutors, for trainings, that kind of stuff, and also our investigator, who goes out and searches papers for child support pretty much weekly, and also, other finds witnesses, gets witnesses transferred or transported here for depositions, for trials, that kind of stuff.
So on the one car you do have, the old one, can you not take the AC unit off the one that blew up and put it on there?
I don't know the answer to that.
I was just thinking that
if it was working, then.
Right, and that's something you can do for another vehicle, and again, it's not just the AC problem, it's an old rough ride, and,
A lot of butts in the seat. So, I'm good with it. I mean, I always like that, somebody comes and says I have the money and I'm gonna work it out to where I can pay for it, so. I'll entertain a motion if nobody else has got anything to comment or make something on.
I'll make a motion to run. We're good.
Maureen makes a motion to, allow the prosecutor to, I guess the other car went back and went to auction or whatever.
the other car, we were using it, it was always kind of in the sheriff's department's control, so that was given back to them.
Okay. All right, Randy makes a motion to, allow the prosecutor's office to purchase a vehicle out of the money they have in their department, so, Greg?
I'll second.
Greg seconds that, I'll make that unanimous.
Thank you, and I plan to go talk to the council and get their blessing.
Okay.
And I think their next meeting, I believe.
Yeah. All right.
Congratulations
Thank you.
on the case.
Oh, thank you.
Good job.
Yeah, we've got a lot, just a quick update, we did have a jury trial last week, I think you've probably seen through, social media at least, had a great result, we've had, I think ever since I've taken over, knock on wood, all of our jury trials have had excellent results for us so far, and we're trying more cases, I think, here in the last few years than it's been tried here, at least in my history of Scott County, we've been trying a lot of cases, and, I got a great staff that's very trial capable, so. It's great to have. So,
Congratulations on it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, the outcome was good, so.
Yep.
Yeah,
Good for the community.
good for the community.
Yep.
So, appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you, Chris.
Nick? I beat your record tonight.
You think so?
Well, it all depends on what happens right here.
This is Luke Lamar, he's from PHI. We had spoken, last meeting about bringing someone in to explain or answer any questions you might have about what was proposed to you guys. So that's why he is here.
Okay. Well, I have some, I guess, thoughts of, and to, I guess, go back a little bit. People were talking about why we would do this. Why would we do this? And I guess where I like it is that you guys had made a proposal that would, cover.
How do we not share that screen?
That would be able to cover, Scott County residents in an air ambulance, for, I guess, whatever their insurance or whatever their capability to pay, is that correct? So if they have I guess I'm gonna ask a question with a question, but if John Q. Public doesn't have insurance and they get flown, are they covered? Or do they?
I have Jill, who is our membership person, she's been traveling. Jill, are they covered if they're under the countywide membership, they get flown from this county and they do not have insurance? They're still covered by that, right?
Correct. We do not pick and choose who we cover. So every resident of Scott County would be covered if they're flown from the Scott County or the adjacent counties.
Okay. So it's not based on if you can collect from your insurance, you're gonna collect, and if you can't pay it, then it's gonna be paid, so. But the other part of that is that if you do have insurance and whatever your insurance will pay, they'll take that and then the rest of it will be, I guess, written off or cleared or balanced.
Right, so basically the way that it works, is if a Scott County resident is covered, like if you guys decide to approve the countywide and a resident is flown by a PHI helicopter from Scott County or any adjacent county, if they don't have insurance, then we're taking care of the entire bill. If they have insurance, we're going to bill the insurance company first. And then whatever is remaining, that includes the patient's deductible, the out-of-pocket, and the co-insurance we take care of. And so it kind of then comes back to helping the county, whereas instead of a resident now owing a catastrophic air ambulance bill, but they also owe the ambulance and the hospital and all these things, as the hospital bills and the ambulance bills come in, it's going to show that that patient has already met their deductibles and out-of-pockets, but they didn't financially have to pay it because PHI wrote it off, so to speak, when we took care of the bill.
Yeah, I see that. That'd almost be worth a free ride just to get your
Deductible.
deductible met.
Guess you can request that.
So
I'll
it's a,
pretend like I didn't hear you say that.
it's a busy county. We looked up the numbers last year. We did 70 something with just Nick alone, just EMS, not maybe a couple out of the hospital, that's just EMS alone. And it's not, by them using us, it is not degrade Nick's team and everything. They do a phenomenal job. They just work quicker. We can get there quicker, and we've got the critical care aspect. We carry a bunch of drugs, a bunch of different things, so we just work as a team and get them wherever, and it covers, if you look on, I don't know how to operate that thing.
Yeah, so it would cover Scott County if they're flown from Scott, Jennings, Jefferson, Clark, Washington, or Jackson.
And that covers those hospitals too, so you got KDH,
Yeah.
St. Vincent, Jennings, Schneck, Salem, and then the multiple hospitals in Clark. So they don't have to just go to Louisville, so like if you're flown from Clark County, say you need to go to St. Vincent for something heart related, they can still call us, and then we'll go wherever, because it's still an adjacent county that touches Scott County, so it covers that whole area.
Well, a lot of times out of Jackson, they don't go south, they go north.
Yeah, and it wouldn't matter. And we've got the base IMAPs, the Madison base, we're at the airport, but we also have the Stat Flight 2 base, which is PHI, that's at Schneck, so that sits right there at their thing. So Scott's touching 2 helicopter services that we provide right there.
Well, you got this amount here, and I guess you've done some legwork to see that there's 9,526 households. And roughly you said it's, the households and households dependents of this residence will be $7 per household per year for the total of $66,682. We're already into May. I mean, is this an annual fee or is it?
Yes,
Is
yeah,
it
so it's an
prorated?
annual fee. So for example, a lot of counties, like for example, Jennings County is, I'm presenting to them next week, and it's based on when you sign the agreement and PHI gets the funding, then your 12 months starts from that point. It's not a
Okay.
calendar
It's
year.
not a calendar year, okay. Okay. Guys got any questions?
Well, I mean, it sounds like a great idea.
And Luke, have you already talked about the upgrade?
No, I haven't brought up the upgrade yet. I was trying to find what page it was on.
No, you're fine. I was having a little trouble hearing. So some questions that I get asked a lot is if there's a lot of residents whose address is Scott County, but let's say they work in Rush, Decatur, they're outside of that bubble, so to speak, more than they are in it. So what we do for counties who go ahead and approve what I will say the smaller coverage, we then go back to the residents and we offer them to upgrade their membership to what we call the National Membership Program. And that means that they are covered no matter where they are flown from or to, as long as it's PHI helicopters. And that's $30 extra a year to cover their entire household, but that cost is on the resident, not the county.
Okay, so that'd be an add-on to the resident.
That's just an option they can do, yeah.
Right, so basically what happens in other counties that we have agreed like also in Indiana, we have Fountain County and Warren County. They've been with us for years. So what we do is once an agreement is signed, I put together a press release and put together a digital flyer. And we do, sometimes we'll do like even a community event, fly in, let people ask questions. But the residents then will have a promo code that they can just simply log in online. They put in the code, type in their address, and for $30, then their household is covered for an additional 12 months for the national membership, not just the countywide.
All right, I have a question. If we sign a contract, if we go through with this and sign a contract, that would probably make you our first out helicopter. What happens in it, and I know it's happened before, what happens if every helicopter you have in the area is busy and I need to be flown someplace and somebody else flies me?
Yeah, so legally we can't pay their bill and they can't pay ours.
So
that is a risk that is taken. However, I will say, with our flying capabilities, which Luke can talk to a little bit more about the IFR and stuff, if it's based on weather, if we turn it down, everybody else is going to turn it down because we can fly in weather that others can't. The other thing is, since you guys are smack dab in the middle of at least 2 of our bases, that also has already been putting us, we have a 1 call in place, I still believe, with Scott County, do we not, Luke?
Yeah, with EMS, yeah.
Yeah. So with, we're already being called, but there is that possibility that, a competitor would end up taking that flight. But with 70 flights a year, we usually start offering countywides to people once they hit about 10 or 15. So 70 is astronomical that you guys are doing per year.
This is the map of the bases of Indiana, that's with the little circles right there. And 2, we send a transparency report, right, to
Yes,
you.
every
monthly,
month,
so
their base commander will say, it'll show the dates that we requested a helicopter, the time that we requested, who from dispatch called them, who from their base called them, who they spoke to, whether they accepted, whether they kicked it to another service, or whether they declined, and if they declined, why they declined. That's one thing that I was speaking on, I know you and I, way back, of kind of the question arose of why I switched from where we were before to where we are now. Part of it is because that even if they turn it down, I'm seeing why they truly turned it down, instead of hearing, oh, we're turning down for weather, but the real reason was they had no pilots. Like, I get to see why they're truly turning down. And also, like I was saying, some services have an issue with, the 1 call has been kind of a hot topic to where, are we really calling the next closest, or are we calling our next closest? Because there is a difference. If I was to call a base that's in Bedford, are they calling Madison as their next base because it is the closest? Or are they calling their next closest, which is all the way over by Harrison and Crawford County? Because again, that is a difference. So the transparency of, and even when another service picks up, they're saying that, Kentucky 7, Kentucky 11, Kentucky 6, Kentucky, whoever, are the ones that are picking this up and why they kicked it to them.
What's the average cost of a flight to Louisville?
45 to 80,000.
45 to 80,000.
It all depends on mileage, and then it depends on how much stuff we have to do, so. And billing is not I'm a lonely medic, I don't know.
I feel that.
But that's
I feel you, sir.
So I have a question. If somebody is involved in a wreck and they need to be flown out and they do not have insurance at this time, but we haven't signed nothing, do you guys not take them because they do not have insurance?
They can't do
No,
that.
we don't even ask. As a clinician, it's not even, I don't even think about it. I don't look at it, we don't. It's the same as calling 911. They call us, we show up. We don't ask about your insurance status. We don't fall into that hospital umbrella where you start to do whatever. We're still under that. Yeah, so we're gonna take you. We don't, and yeah, we never know. 90% of the time.
The unfortunate aspect of it is just like people can call 911 for a stub toe. I could call a helicopter for a stub toe. They can't.
Well,
get
And
that,
actually, I've seen it too, cause somebody
can't
gets
go, no.
flied, somebody gets flown and they hit the hospital and they could walk out within an hour, I mean,
It happens for
It happens, yes.
yeah, I've seen it, cause what you thought happened didn't happen, and what you thought could happen didn't happen. so.
concussions can look like terrible head bleeds all of a
Oh,
sudden,
yeah.
and then it's not.
Well,
We
but I've
don't have
also,
our CT guys and.
yeah, I've seen it save lives.
Well, and something else that I usually typically get asked also is, what happens if EMS or 911 calls us and we land and then we're not needed? Does that patient get a bill? Nobody gets that bill. We would much rather you pre-launch and get us in the air versus waiting. And we have landed many of places and then been sent home, and it's completely fine. Nobody gets a bill.
Yeah, I understand
There's
that.
no paperwork on mine.
Nick, can you go back to the coverage slide if you have?
This one?
Yeah.
Oh. So any county that touches Scott County would be covered, when you look at that. That's the countywide itself, that's not the
Yeah,
buy-up that you could potentially do or whatever, that's just the countywide, that's what we're asking the county to look at.
But you're also saying for the $30, is that a family thing for $30 a family for the
Right,
national
Right, so that's $30 per household
address?
per year that they can purchase on their own
And then that would
once
cover
the county
those
signs.
bases, and it would also cover, so this is out of, even the Madison base still isn't even on this, but this is all the other bases in the nation when they made this map, what they had, so that's what the buy-up at $30 would cover, so now we've got Mississippi, we've got Alabama, yeah, we've got bunches, so that's a not accurate, but a show of where the majority of the bases are, so that covers you with all that too, the $30 buy-up, if the family wanted it, or the household wanted it, that's what they would get covered too.
Okay.
We have a question in the back.
Yeah, and just to confirm too, we're not asking the county to pay for all of the adjacent county households. It's just for Scott County residents only, but it is if they are flown from those other counties.
Yeah, I get that.
1 second, Jill.
Just a quick question. It's happened where we have people that are somewhere else and you've flown home, it's not an emergency 911 response. Would this extended coverage, would that touch that situation at all? Would there be any opportunity for those folks who get caught away from home?
PHI does not have, the only base that we have that has fixed wing, which would be the airplane, not a helicopter, is in Redding, California. And they really only have it to go to LA, like those major metropolises there. We don't offer that type of service to get people nationally or internationally home. There are companies out there that do that, that's just not what we do. We're more 911 oriented or 911 for the hospital oriented facility wise than it's already happened, we need to try to get them back.
So you're talking about a medical transport?
Yes, but not exactly,
like if
No.
something happened here critical and they lived in Florida.
Yeah.
that's what that.
Well, and I know you brought up last week, and you asked me about it, I think it's very intriguing, I think it's a service that we could probably provide to every resident here in Scott County, what, 25,000 residents here, if there's, 100 a year, everybody's probably never gonna see the benefit, but the
ones that do.
the ones that I know that have used the helicopter, except for Randy, every one of them, it was a financial burden. And, cause their insurance won't pay it, I mean, they'll pay a certain amount, then they won't pay anymore, so,
Like I said, this isn't for our service, this has nothing to do with us,
Yeah,
it's just
right.
affiliated with us, this is
Yeah.
for,
but I'd like to table it on our end as far as having a vote on it, because that's why I was asking the amount, if it's not a calendar year, it's contract year. And
Yeah.
It's revolving, so I'd like to think about it a little bit more and maybe get some input from from some community residents and stuff to see, is it worth us spending that money to technically protect them? I mean, so in my opinion, I mean, financially protect them, because, you know, the outcome hopefully would be good, but to have that medical tragedy happen and then find a bill at the end of the day that you can't swallow, so.
Well, unlike using Walmart or the roads or whatever, no one wakes up and says, I'm gonna use an ambulance today, or I'm gonna use an air ambulance today. No one, that's not in anybody's game plan when they wake up in the morning. So, you know, no, I don't think I don't know that anybody has a slush fund for an ambulance bill or a helicopter bill or anything like that. That's not something anyone thinks of. No one needs it until you need it, and then it's a whole different ballgame. You can't get there quick enough or can't do enough, and it's a whole different thing, so.
Well, I've never seen anybody stand on the flight deck out there and get out their wallet and start figuring out if they had enough money to fly them or not.
Yeah, I mean, most people that we're using it for are going, nah, I'd rather not. You know, they're not in the condition to do so, so.
So you all right with?
I think we need to table it. I mean, just, for one, I'd like to see where the money's gonna come from.
Yeah, cause it'd be a revolving membership type of thing.
Yeah.
Greg, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I certainly wanna table and talk about this a little more.
I mean, to me, the 66,000 or 66,500 or 66,682 is a bargain if it happens to you. If it happens to, and I think you've said it before, at that rate, we've already had roughly, 7,500 to 100 people flown out of here. It's already paid for itself with 2 flights, so, but again, it's not county employees being flown, and we say it's the residents flown, so anyway.
Well, and we've seen in the counties that we have signed up across the US, what we've been tracking is, not only does it's showing that the hospital bills and the ambulance bills are being paid a little bit better than what they were. There's not as many people filing bankruptcy once they get all these bills. But the other thing is, we've even had some families where unfortunately there's been 2 people in a family that have been flown in a year. And one time we flew the exact same patient twice in a year. It doesn't matter. We took care of all of them.
Yeah.
So it's not like we keep track of, how many we flew out of this household or anything like that. And the last question that I usually get answered is this amount going to stay the same year over year? I was really surprised that PHI actually was going to offer the $7 rate just because of how many flights you guys do a year. Because once we start getting up into that number, you're right, we're gambling on how much we could actually get from a flight, and that's why we look at the census data and the uninsured rate and that sort of thing. And so the only way that it would ever go up is if your census data went up. Because obviously we legally have to go off of those parameters. So if you guys increase a bunch of households, it would slightly go up. If you decrease households, I've got one county where theirs went down by about $1,100 for a year. So that's just to kind of give you an idea. That's what we go off of is the census data.
Okay. Well, the other thing the reason I want to table this is that I want to reach out to the mayors of Austin and the mayor of Scottsburg and see if we can get them to buy in maybe a little bit to help pay for this, but for the fact that both cities have more residents than the county has, so I would like to see if they'd be willing to try to split it, pay some, or do something different, so instead of the county taking the whole burden.
I agree 100%.
So, and again, I think it's a good deal. I mean, if you have to use it, and me being in the volunteer fireman, I've seen many helicopters, so And it's not, and I know it's not cheap, so.
Well, and we do have, PHI doesn't care, how it's split up or anything like that. We would just ask that however it's completed, we have, one payment.
Yes, yes, yes.
But we do have some counties where they've actually matter of fact, we were at Switzerland County and presented to them last year quite a few times. And they were even talking about having the townships each pay a portion. So again, we've got some that split it with the hospital, we have some that have the townships, we have some, so it's all over the board as far as how counties pay for it. So that part doesn't matter, that's not in the agreement at all.
Okay, alright, sounds good.
Thank you.
Yep, and Jill's number is in the back of the PowerPoint, and she's got her business card, and Nick has my number if you guys have a more operational type question.
Okay, alright.
I appreciate you guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
You can have your screen back, sir.
Alright, what else you got?
I would like to hit on the financials if you don't mind, just to show where we're at. April is, in this area, is always our slowest month as far as run volume goes. It has been, systemically, I think, for like the last 8 years. I don't know, because it gets nice and people want to do stuff, they call it, I don't know. But our run volume was down quite a bit this month, so we'll probably take a little hit next month as far as the revenue goes. But again, I looked back at the last few years, and it's April and September, I think, are the two slow months that we have. So it's how it tracks every year. Just for you guys to be aware of that. We did finish April with 142,852. Training's up to 15.3. Paramedic is up to 13.5 for the year at a total of 53 for the year. So our year-to-date for income is at 631. That puts us a little above projected, obviously, a little above 1.8, which has never been done here before. So that's what our goal is to hit. As you can see, the runs we had, I should not say February, I should say April. We did 349 runs in April, which is down, like I said, over 18%, so it was quite a bit. Cash ledger, we started the year at 592. Right now, I got it from them today, we're at 746. So that puts us up from the start of the year 153,982. When we met last, we were up 118, so we're continually growing, which I'm extremely happy with. Any questions about financials or runs? Check. PHI we already did. Community paramedicine update, vehicle's been upfitted and it's in use. We're waiting on a DEA visit. We can still function as planned until the DEA comes with the exception of writing prescriptions. We can't do that until the DEA blesses our building and how we're doing everything. So everything else will be in full swing sans that.
So have you been using it? Have you had a run like that?
We just got it back 2 days ago, so, but it's completely ready. It's stocked already with the equipment and stuff.
So the people that would use this, I mean, doctors or hospitals or whatever, do they know we have this set up now?
Our medical director in ER knows.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I know he's one and the same, so.
But yeah, I mean, he was a big supporter of it. And I know quite a few of the other doctors in the ER are aware of the situation, but like I said, I'm not sure what their relationship, and I want to say their refreshes side of things, I'm not sure what their relationship is with the hospital. That's not our deal. We're just there to support them in whatever we go on. So I cannot speak to how involved that's going to be. That's not our wheelhouse.
Okay.
Last thing is that I just kind of wanted to bring to your attention. When was redevelopment? March? April?
Yes.
I don't know. We met with redevelopment whenever it was, and it wasn't really a true proposal as it was more of an informational conversation that we had with them. I know they're meeting at the end of this month, I believe, with Baker Tilly to kind of figure themselves out. But with that, I don't know what's gonna happen with that. So I just wanted to make you guys aware of that I went there, talked to them. Obviously, they're that was their first meeting they had, so they had an organizational meeting and all of that. And I didn't want to kind of bombard them with the whole spiel, but I just wanted to make them aware of what our needs were, since I don't have a whole lot of avenues to pursue. But whether they help or not, it's something that we as a service, or I as a service, need to consider, and I need to bring to your attention either way, is that we either I need to know what your guys' pursuance is gonna be at the end of this year or next year, if we're going to actually do this rotation, or if it's gonna be like this year where I come back for 4 to 6 months and beg and plead until we met. Like, I just need to know what I need to do on my end, so I'm not wasting your time, I'm not wasting my time, and my equipment's not breaking down constantly.
So
that's where I'm at.
On here, you've got the 2016, the upfit, and that's bringing it to standards, is that correct?
Yeah, so we've got 4 options. 1, we upfit that truck. 2, we remount one that we already have. 3, we buy new. 4, we do nothing.
Wow.
Those are the options we have.
So what's a remount cost?
Remounts are, depending on box and chassis, they're anywhere from about $210 to $240. Some can be less, some can be more, but around that lower 200 range is typically where they land.
And that's a new chassis technically.
It's a new chassis, and then they
Use the
upfit
box.
everything in the box. They use the box, but they replace just about everything.
The upfit was what, 125 or something?
So that was without the stretcher stuff, so it was gonna come to about 148, but that was bid back in March. Since then, the price has gone up, so it puts us at about 160, including everything. Yep, and then obviously you're well aware of what a new ambulance costs, so,
Yes.
and those are only gonna continue to rise. I just need to know,
Where are we at with that?
we get it Monday.
Okay.
The other part of this is that, I mean, it's gonna have to be a discussion with I guess the council, because they're the money people.
And in your packet, not to cut you off, this is what the upfit would be. So, go ahead, sorry.
where I was getting at was, I know they cut what you normally would have got with the lit money. I guess where I'm going with this is that lit money's still out there, to be used for emergency services. I mean, maybe we can, do an upfit or a remount with some of the lit money.
And I'm not asking for anything right
Oh, I
now.
know you're not.
I'm just, I need to know where to go, is all I need to do.
Well,
Are we not gonna do anything? Are we gonna look more at that upfit remount, or are we gonna look at buying new? Just because, upfit is gonna be about 4 to 6 months, a remount's gonna be about 6 to 9 months, and then obviously the purchase could be, is there a demo or are we speccing it out? That could be anywhere from 2 months to 2 years.
My whole thing about why we bought the ambulance when we bought it was to do exactly what the remount, so that we get into a rotation of, not having to spend $300,000 or $400,000 for an ambulance, so, and I know remounts are a lot more expensive than they used to be, and, but if we can still get, 2 or 3 more years out of a box, then that's the most simplest answer I could ever have. I prefer, we've always done that, and other people do it, and especially right now with ambulances, even if you're buying one, you can't get one. So, I mean, the chassis are out there every day, so.
And though, if my opinion is worth anything, I'd like to just, I guess, give my insight on this. If we do go down the cheaper version of just upfitting this, that will allow, because then we will have the dreaded 6 trucks in this county that can then be frontline, but that will allow us to kind of prolong that initial remount to start that in the middle of next year, to where we're not paying for it until the year after. if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Because if not, we're gonna be remounting this year, we'll remount next year, and we'll kind of get into that. If we spend that cheaper amount, that kind of pushes us out a year, if you will. It's not that we skip next year, we start the process next year, but as far as money moving out of my account, we're skipping next year, because we wouldn't start that remount process until mid to end of '24, and we wouldn't pay for it, obviously, until '25. So.
Well, that was the whole reasoning for buying the other ambulances.
Correct.
Is to when we do upfit or remount something, we have.
The proper amount
We
of
have
trucks that
enough
we need.
trucks to continue to do business. So,
Correct.
So I'm gonna tell you, in my opinion, is that we're gonna either do an upfit or a remount. So if it's the upfit for the 2016, which is still a good vehicle, or a good box, it just needs to be cleaned up, fixed up, and.
Yeah, cause the box
brought up
itself's
to
an
date.
'07. It's dated.
Yeah.
And that's
so-
why, you know, when we're dealing with like, when we go to remount these 2020s, a lot less is going to have to be fixed because it's only 4 years old at that point.
Yeah.
They'll still replace some lights and update, you know, the carbon filters and all that stuff in it, but we're not, you know, they're stripping the inside of this box if we do this upfit, replacing HVAC, replacing filters, putting COVID filters in, like, they're getting it up to spec just because the box is 15 years old.
Well,
It hasn't been touched since then.
again, we came up with the plan was that that's the whole reason we bought the other ambulance, so.
Yep.
So I think we stay with, my opinion, we stay with the same plan, cause we can't afford to buy a new ambulance every 3 or 4 years anyway, so.
So, yeah, and I
So what's
mean,
your
Yeah,
thoughts?
I mean, we'll do one or the other. I can't say which one we'll do right now because, you know, I would have to look at honestly, I'd have to look at the 2016 to see which way I would lean. You know,
yeah, so, like I said, everything as far as what an upfit would look like, I'm still waiting on, I don't wanna say a bid, but a structural plan of what the other places is. That's one version, another company is doing another. It's actually the company that built the box is bidding the other, which I feel like I'd be, if there's not a huge price difference, more inclined to go that way because they're the manufacturer of the box. You're actually shipping it back to the manufacturer for them to do the work instead of, you know, a
I
third
kinda feel
party.
like an upfit, you know, we're spending all that money on something that's kinda on its last, on the end of its life anyways, you know? That's
Yeah,
why.
I'm the
I would have
opposite.
So what are
Because
you
if
gonna
we're-
get out of it? I mean,
So that's what I'm saying. If we do the math, we just bought we'll call it for round math, $300,000 ambulance that we'll get 2.5 to 3 years out of, right? We call that 100,000 a year. We're spending 150 on a truck that we might get 1.5 to 2 years out of, and we're getting 75 a year. The cost per year that we're doing is less than what it would be. That's the way I'm looking at it from a financial standpoint of, yeah, we're putting money into it. Are we gonna get the 3 to 4 years out of it? No, but we're also not putting $300,000 into it. We're putting half of it into it. So, you know, I'm looking at it from a market standpoint of, you know,
So
cost per year.
so the upfit, as far as the motor, transmission.
Motor does not get touched.
So you have faith in the, I mean,
120,000 on a 6.6 diesel.
yeah,
Actually, one of the councilmen came out 2 days ago and I think it was 124,862.
But transmission doesn't get touched, right?
No, I mean, the drivetrain doesn't get
Drivetrain
touched.
doesn't get touched.
No.
but what you're saying is you got 100-some thousand miles on a diesel, which
We should get another 100,000 out of.
that weighs,
And don't get me wrong, there's gonna be maintenance on the vehicle, but there's gonna be maintenance on this new vehicle that we get next week,
Yeah.
you know, in 3 months for tires and oil changes or whatever the case it might be. I
Well,
mean,
I
that
mean,
happens.
In all honesty, though, the engine's the least thing I'm worried about. I'm more worried about the transmission than anything.
Yeah, and I mean,
And the
well,
drive line.
that one, actually has a Jasper transmission in it already.
it's been rebuilt.
How many miles are on it?
I put that transmission in when I was here the first time with about 80-something thousand miles on it.
So it's got about 40 or
Yeah.
50.
I'd say like 88, 89,000 is what was, I'd have to go back and look, but I believe that's what was on the initial drivetrain when we replaced the transmission in it.
So
So you can understand why my concern is the transmission,
Yeah,
since you've already had that problem.
yeah, I mean, I'm the one that put it in, so they're not fun. But at the same time, I think, you know, a $6,000, $7,000 part is still,
300,000 or 400,000.
it's a lot of transmissions to put in before we get to that $200,000 mark. But again, you know, it's not, it allows us to put that in the front line, but that doesn't mean that I negate it and put it in front line. So the extension of doing that is probably gonna be 2 to 3 years, because it's not gonna be used every day. It allows me to put it in a rotation, just like I do my other trucks. So it'll actually, you know, I can take one out and put it in front line, and then take one out and put it in front line and do it that way. Again, I'm indifferent. I'm trying to do it the cheapest way. I'm not trying to come in here and ask for $300,000 for another one after we just spent 6 months doing it.
Well, that's the plan, right? I mean, that's what that's why we've got the new ambulance.
But I just wanna make sure I'm not wasting a bunch of people's time to do nothing.
Well, I agree with your plan. I mean, the outfit,
Just which way, I don't know yet.
but it's gonna be one or the other here. It's not gonna be buying new, so.
Perfect.
So that's the answer you're wanting anyway, or the
So I guess,
direction.
yes, so I guess the next question is, what is the time frame that you guys would be willing to look at this?
Well, that's where I'm going back to the council and saying, I know there's LIT money out there, WIT money out there that, you know, was pulled back from you, and can they give you the money out of a tax that the council, and not this council and the last council, put on taxpayers of Scott County for, WIT tax, and it's supposed to be, you know, for emergency services. Well, you know, let's look and see if we can use that emergency service tax for your.
It can be, I just don't know how much is left in there.
Oh, I know that, but you're also saying that if you do this, say you do this mid-year, we're not gonna pay for it till next year, correct?
Yeah, I mean, if we kick it in July, August timeframe, we're not getting it till beginning of 24.
So that's a question I'd like to ask the council, so see if they would,
I don't want
give some
to,
money up.
I'm just trying to get ahead of this conversation so I don't come to you when I need it and then it take 4 more months and then the game plans change by the time of.
Well, I'm gonna tell you my thought is uplift or remount. It's not gonna be a new one. That's why we bought in the first
Perfect.
place.
I agree.
So,
Okay, thanks.
is that it?
Yep.
Holy cow. Still gonna beat you. All right. Low software resolution ARP funds. Who's presenting
That
for
was
that? Is that you?
It'll be me, yeah, I mean, that's the form that I sent you, it's 288,000 down, we need a resolution for that if we do it.
So here's kind of the problem with the software, okay? It looks like there's a certain amount, like 177,000. Make sure I have it right. $175,000, I'm sorry. Which you indicated could be split between 2023 and 2024.
Yes.
I don't know that changes the concern, but, 175,000 to actually basically buy the software and the training. There's another charge of $4,542 for the server and 50 user licenses. And then there's an annual maintenance fee of $55,000. And that's about 12,000 more than the current system. The main problem is not really the maintenance fees or anything like that, it's that this looks like an equipment purchase, so unless I have something that were to show that after looking at it and having some other attorneys at Ross Brown Todd look at it, unless I were to have something to show that this falls within the requirements for one of the exceptions to the general rule that amounts over $150,000 need to be bid out under sealed bid. I don't believe that you could use ARPA money for this particular type of purchase, because not only do we have to meet the state requirements for public purchasing, but we also have to be very careful about following federal procurement guidelines, because they will, just like with the purchases from the last meeting, all of those were, I think only one of them was less than 150,000. It was quoted, everything else was done by a sealed bid. So if there are other software systems out there that will bid this, or other companies that will bid it, I don't know that. I don't know if this is a company that has a contract with the state to offer services at a particular price and whether they fall within that exception. It's just, it seems like we can't approve anything from ARPA specifically without having a little more knowledge about.
I actually talked to Andrew about this, because I asked him about the software, and he was telling me that there are about 2 or 3 players in this area, and that 2 of the players, at least I'll say at least one of the players, everybody's walking away from because of the software. And so he's saying that the support is not gonna be there.
Sure.
And actually, that's what she's running
And
into.
I'm sure, I'm not saying that that's not a problem, I'm just saying, like, we have an obligation when we spend this money to use particular purchasing methods when we're buying equipment. So, we have to be able to show that we've used a purchasing method that's gonna get the county the best price, or the federal government's gonna come back and say, we want our $175,000 back.
Okay, so what you're saying is that we just need to make sure
I
that.
would table this.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would ask that we go through the same purchasing methods that we used for, the sealed bids on the, mowing equipment. And then set it probably for our first meeting next month, because we would need to at least give, I can't remember what the exact time frame is, but it's like 30 days.
so you're saying it could fall within the guidelines of how we can
It
spend
could
the
fall
money.
within the state guidelines. I don't know that it will ever fall within the federal procurement guidelines, which is actually kind of more concerning.
But you're you're talking more of how you, like, if Low Software comes in here and goes, here's an invoice.
Yeah, they
and you
may,
pay it.
yeah,
You're saying, what you're saying is it's not that it doesn't fall under the ARPA requirements. You're saying it's under how you either bid it with 3 different people, or
The
if you
actual-
don't get 3 people, and you take.
you don't actually have to bid for 3 people exactly, you just have to put it out for bids. 3 is like
If
the
you don't get it.
general number that everybody uses, cause it's specified in the other
Okay.
statute that's more
Okay.
about quoting, where you have to get 3 quotes, that's 50 to 150,000. The procurement laws have different thresholds, like there's a micro purchasing threshold, and anything that's below 10,000 and then above 10,000, it's informal purchasing methods, and then it's like above 250,000. Like, they have different cutoffs. I don't know what exactly they are, but yes, it is not that it doesn't fit within the subject matter of what ARPA can be used for. It's not that, this particular proposal is not a good proposal, but it's just ensuring that the purchasing method
The guidelines.
is followed to make sure that.
Okay. Well, again, I'm not a software guru, and so I asked Andrew, and he's like, and I've talked to Jennifer as well, and most of the counties in Indiana are going to this.
It may be the case that, like, when you bid this out, this is the only company that responds. It may be the case that there's only 2 other companies or 3 companies that respond, but there's some again, either an issue with services that is known, widely known, or, you know, but if somebody were to come in at a lower price, offering the same services, and we had nothing to show that they couldn't perform, that's where you may not, usually you have to go with the lowest responsible and responsive bidder.
But they have to offer exactly the same services.
Well, when you put out your, invitation for bids, you will develop a scope of work, basically, like what you need. So.
Okay. So, all right, so.
Well, one good thing about Dawson here is that,
That's a different one.
That's a different one.
okay.
Well, that's something different, yeah. What you're looking at there's
Yeah,
different.
it's totally different. This is a low software.
Do we know if Andrew ever talked to him?
No, as of this morning, I spoke to him and he has not gotten with them as of this morning, so.
And I don't have a problem with the additional 55,000, right, for the maintenance, that really falls more on the side of like a services agreement, basically, so I don't, those have very different.
And to clarify a little bit on that, I was a little worried, cause I thought, that is a chunk of money per year. But I was just on the phone with Washington County to try to help me through something that we couldn't get through. And their lady has used this software for 10 years, and she said, I guarantee you will go back and find enough mistakes that aren't being captured right now that you will more than cover that amount. The difference in what you're paying on a service agreement with your current provider versus this one. She said, I guarantee you. And I don't want to name, but there was a fairly large entity here in Scottsburg that didn't get, I will not, but it would surprise you, some of the things that didn't get captured last year.
But you're talking about the software that we have now, we're paying a service fee on it as well.
Exactly, yeah.
So it's
But
not
it's about
that that's
13,000 less, so I was worried about that difference. And
That's
I
not
think
a-
it'll be easier
Yeah,
to capture that from what
Okay.
she's telling me.
well, sounds like we're gonna table it till the
Okay.
next meeting so that we can decide how we need to.
I honestly, I would say table it till next month.
Mhm.
The only reason being that you wanna have a sufficient amount of time to build the scope of work, make sure that you can get that to a sufficient number of people to bid. Andrew probably knows the names of who we could send it to. We'll give them basically a deadline for submissions. And then it will explain in the invitation, basically, that these closed bids will be opened on a specific date. I would say we would use the first meeting in the month of June. And we'll open them on that date, and then we'll know at least that the purchasing method was followed, then the resolution for use of ARPA funds, we can take up at that time.
Okay, sounds like a plan. All right, so we'll table that till next, month. So, moving on. Enjoy your trip.
See you, Bob.
Good afternoon, gentlemen, ladies.
Yes, sir.
I'm Jeff Kemper, representing Dossett Consulting. And our specialty is the Title 4D child support reimbursements to counties.
Say the child support.
Child support reimbursements, and just as a background story for me, I was a long-term member of the county council in Tippecanoe County. And I asked our auditor one time, I said we were paying to a vendor about $10,000 a year. And I was the guy that always thought, why are we outsourcing so much when perhaps, whether it be an auditor or, treasurer, a lot of this work done in-house? And he said, well, you might want to check this one. Slide from the expense side to the revenue side, and for the 10,000 or so we were paying out, we were getting reimbursements back of about $150,000. I said, okay, say no more. A 15-1 return, there's a lot of detailed paperwork. Well, happy to report, we are now doing it for Tippecanoe County, and that number is significantly higher. So my way of saying, and I've been working with Mr. Dossett for almost 6 years, and I have just a bit of history, mostly about him, but we work with auditors, clerks, and prosecutors. And, interesting that Chris Owen was here, I talked to him briefly. We are already working with your clerk, Michelle, and if, I think the clerk's listing of clients may be on top, and I think Scott's over on the right side, about halfway down. Jeff Dossett and I have been in touch with Jennifer
Yes.
since the first of the year.
Yeah.
And, I think we've come to an agreement that, Jennifer is very interested in what we can offer. We are now currently in over 50 counties, and you'll see we're, in the counties we work, we're not always working with auditor, clerk, and prosecutor, but that's our hope, because we think there's certainly common connection. In this case, Jennifer's filing reports not only for her office, but she also needs to file reports for the clerk and for the prosecutor. And as I understand it, currently, I think Chris Owen and his child support team of Sarah and Linda, they are currently doing their own. But we see that there's advantages. Primarily what I think we bring is the expertise of Jeff Dossett and our other number crunchers, if I may. Oftentimes there's an audit. We are there to help with an audit. I had a chance to chat with Chris Owen the last couple of years. He wasn't quite sure that he needed outside support. And I said, well, for the sake of Sarah Good or Linda Kiefer, I believe it is, I can't even think of her last name, but just to have somebody from Dossett there to help them if the Child Support Bureau or the State Board of Accounts comes in, we think one of our advantages is to help counties if there is an audit. So that's one thing. We do the reporting. We don't totally take everything off. In the case of the auditor is blessed by the state of Indiana to provide a cost allocation plan every year. I brought a sample. I won't bore you with the whole thing. This is an old one for Tippecanoe County. And we partner with a software firm out of Michigan, MGT Consulting. There's certainly more data in here than most auditors ever want to see, need to see, but there may be a handful of items in the course of a year that it might be helpful for them to have. My understanding has been our competitors maybe provide a similar book, but an auditor puts it in the drawer, probably never looks at it, rarely looks at it. Jeff Dossett prides himself on the fact that he would come in and say, Jennifer, here's a handful of things you may want to know. You might want to put a tab on page 43, tab on page 6, 7, or 8. So, and this, to give you an idea, Tippecanoe, obviously Scott County is not as large as Tippecanoe, but for just an annual fee of like $3,000 to quote your attorney, we're probably in the micro purchasing compared to the big numbers I've been hearing here. But I think you all have a copy of our contract. I know Jennifer's interested in going with us, and I think may have already sent your cancellation to the previous vendor.
I've got that ready to go
That's
today. I
what it
wanted to talk to them first.
Yeah.
And what had happened, that was, and from what I understand, like you said, that there was another company it was signed with just at the end of the year. I don't have anything against them. They're from Virginia. I've not heard a word from them. Mr. Dossett did come in and sit down, because when I heard this, I had no idea what it was even about. But he did a very good job of explaining what he can do, what does do, and they work in the state of Indiana, where the other one is
And we're
not.
based out
So
of
we
Indiana.
already have a company we're doing this with.
Oh, correct. And I think you have probably for several years. And again, I'm not picking on them. Of course, I think we're the best, both in terms of what we offer, customer service, but then I'm the sales guy, so of course I can say that, so.
So how much
Public
did we
does,
pay that other
I've
company?
not
I think it's the same
seen
money.
the existing contract with the current,
Vendor.
do we have that?
I think I can go get it real quick.
Yeah.
Typically,
I know
what,
I've got the book.
We would have to pay that out, right? More than likely.
Well, so then I need to see what the cancellation policy is inside that agreement. I mean,
yeah, I know that she can show you that. I know theirs is a 60-day termination clause. Ours is 30-day. And as Mr. Dossett has said, as you'll see, our liability clause is pretty, let's say, county friendly.
expensive, yeah.
And I understand this may not be something you could act on today. I thought you may already have this contract, but I know Jennifer and Debbie, I think, just got these contracts out to you. But I said, I think right now is a good time of the year, particularly with Jennifer being interested in using our services. we would certainly not start our work until that 60 days, assuming you decide to move forward, until the 60 days is up. Typically, the amount of work we do usually is done in the summer and fall, a deadline for the end of the year by the State Board of Accounts for reimbursement for the following year. So realize, and I
So
didn't
we're talking a 3-year contract with, and you're saying $3,000 a year.
Right. We suggest a 3-year just because in most
Oh, I get
cases
that.
to, for the auditor and staff to be comfortable with how we do our work. And we always encourage folks, you know, feel free to contact other counties, particularly maybe counties that are contiguous to Scott. We have several in southern Indiana, and so we would really be interested in working with you. As I say, we've worked with your clerk for several years. Clerk's work is just a little bit different in that it requires a monthly claiming, and our folks gather and compile the data to do the claiming, and it's a little different because the auditor is a 1 year. We compile the data, get this back within a couple of months, and the county gets reimbursed quarterly for reimbursements from the auditor's office. So, I also like to add to you fellas, we're proud, you're familiar with this book, the Commissioner's Book, and we're happy to be we're happy to be one of your major sponsors for the Commissioners also. Jeff has worked well with Stephanie Yeager for years, and we're kind of proud to be, you know,
Yeah, I talked to her quite a lot.
supporting the Commissioners, yeah.
Well, again, I'm gonna plead ignorant here, because a lot of times, each department has, you know, contracts with people doing things. To me, I would have thought it, you know, I didn't know we already had somebody, and
This
that
is
wouldn't have been something that we would have been,
Sure.
you know.
Well, when I talked to Jennifer, I guess I was surprised that the previous auditor would have made a commitment well beyond after she was out of office, which typically doesn't happen. I'm thinking, well, if I'm in my last year, I'm not gonna extend another company,
Yeah.
3 years, and, that's why I think it happens quite a bit, changing companies when there's a new, official on board. And that's why, as I said to Jennifer, if you gentlemen decide to move forward with this, we would not start our work until the 60 days is up. And if there's a little pro rata that your current vendor, we would certainly pay that.
So what do we pay the current company?
It was 3,100. There's an invoice right there.
I thought typically we're in the same ballpark, yeah.
So they're $100 more than what?
I think they were.
I don't have, this doesn't look like the contract, this just looks
Okay,
like
and I don't know if
what
there's another one
he has
somewhere
there
else.
as this is just a cost allocation plan for 2021, just so benefits.
We can go see if we can find
I think we're gonna take at least until the next meeting, until we know what we're getting into as far as getting rid of the contract.
Well, I agree with that, but also I want to stress that, you know, a department head, an elected official is asking us to switch companies that she feels is going to benefit her or her department. So, I mean, I would, and plus it's a,
Deb might find the contract in the door, and if they can look at that or
but
not.
I think it's, you know, something that, you know, she needs to be comfortable with, or her department needs to be comfortable with. So, I mean, I don't know one company from the other outside of, I see the address here is in Indianapolis, and the other one you said was in Virginia, so.
I mean,
And like I
I'm more
said,
than
no-
all right with it, but I would like to
Well,
make
yeah,
sure
and I-
that the contract we're ending, we're
He's
not
got
gonna
it.
get our head ripped off.
He's got it.
And I
He's
don't-
reviewing
I
it.
don't mean to downplay anybody, but, you know, I've been in 4 months now, and I've never got any contract other than say, hey, this bill didn't get paid, that kind of thing. There's not, and Mr. Dossett did come in and do a very good job of explaining, 'cause like I said, I didn't even know this existed.
Well, and I will tell you, Jeff Dossett, good guy to work for,
That's
because
what you need to do,
there are
stop paying
15
bills
to
so people
20
come and see you.
new auditors this year. And of course, being a sales guy, so I wanna reach out and talk to him, and Jeff Dossett would say to me, how about let's give these new auditors, or clerks, or prosecutors 2 or 3 months to get their feet on the ground. And, he talked to you, well, basically.
He was
back at the-
here probably in January.
And I think it was probably when he was coming to visit Michelle anyway, so, and then we had met Jennifer at the newly elected officials
Yeah.
thing. So basically, I reached out to Jeff Dossett on April 1, I says, okay, boss, 3 months is up, can I start reaching out to some of these new people? So, but we've had good luck, and our people are really pretty pleased with our performance, so.
Michelle speaks very highly of him, I mean, but I still would probably I probably would not change just because another department had something unless they all did it, but like I said, after talking to him, I felt a lot more
So
comfortable.
this is a contract that expired on March 31st of 2022. It looks like it may have been renewed twice. But
Is it a year to year, or is it 3 years?
it's year-to-year renewals after the original term expires, but the strange thing.
So are you saying now that it's technically expired?
Well, we may be in the final year of a renewal, like it will continue to renew from year to year unless you say otherwise, but I think we might need to.
And technically, the way this system
Different
works,
reason.
yeah, excuse me, yeah, the data we would collect is really for, there's a year or two gap, so any data we would begin collecting would be for a year or two out anyway. So, and I know most cases, I think, besides ourselves, I think the other companies that basically the data is started to be collected now through the fall for a deadline at the end of the year for.
So, could I ask a question just about, cause you talked about, the child support reimbursement, but also that you offer services to the clerk already.
I don't understand.
You can't offer services to the, you can't offer services to the auditor.
Who needs to, who has the authority?
Do we know
I'm
whether,
all right with this. Oh, I am too.
is this
That's what
particular
she
agreement
wants.
that you guys are doing, is this just for child support?
Yes, and just for the auditor.
Just for the
Yeah.
auditor, child support?
The
So-
auditor is required to submit a cost plan to the state of Indiana, and it's a once-a-year plan contract, whereas the clerk and the prosecutor, theirs is an ongoing, because there's claiming
Because they do
required
it
every month.
Yeah.
And with them, as Mr. Dossett says, if at some point Michelle Shelton, your clerk, says, well, I'm not happy with your level of reporting, ours is the same way. It's a 30-day, as Jeff calls it, out clause. So
The termination clause says that you're still responsible for any costs incurred, reasonable costs incurred as a result of the convenience termination at 60 days, but I don't know what those are without talking to whoever this group is. So I would say,
We're gonna table it, so.
if we would table it till the next meeting, just the second meeting this month, cause I have another question about which elected, is it usual for a, what it, strike that.
you'd ask me a legal question, I wouldn't be able to answer anyway.
It's not,
It's not really a legal
it's
question.
who is the person that you should be coming to, and who has the authority to sign this contract, I guess?
Oh, okay.
Is it usually the commissioners?
In most counties, we do. We've had 1 or 2 counties where an auditor said, I don't need the commissioners just because we're in that micro purchase category. Typically, an auditor will want to get the approval of the commissioners. We find one of our list is about prosecutors in 4D courts, and about half the prosecutors, and I don't mean anything bad to anybody of the legal side, they'll say, I don't need the commissioners. Again, because if the contract is $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a year, prosecutors say, take the commissioners' names off that one, I'll sign it. So, but I think that has to do with this.
Yeah, and we have an ordinance on purchasing, so, for elected officials, but, is there some type of service that's specifically offered to, like, not just the prosecutor's office, but to like the judicial office or anything like that?
Relating specifically to child support reimbursements,
Or anything, I don't
I
know.
can't answer that.
Okay,
All I know is our work is in child support reimbursements required by the state. Clerk's gotta do this, prosecutor's gotta do this, auditor gets to do this.
okay, sorry, I know I'm being kinda vague.
That's all right.
Alright,
All right, we're gonna table it, but
Sure, I understand.
I'm gonna tell you, I think we all feel comfortable that if Jennifer wants this company to do her stuff for her, then there's no reason for us to get in the middle of it
Sure.
or deny her that privilege, but.
Yeah, it's
We
a,
just
it's a
wanna-
lower price, it's a lower,
Mhm.
we have a purchasing preference for Indiana-based companies.
Yeah.
But I think we just need to look at what,
The only other thing that I hadn't brought up and I meant to bring up, you may or may not be familiar with the incentive funds that come to each county. Money from these reimbursements go into one of three incentive funds. Scott County, compared to the many numbers, large counties, small counties, Scott County has a significant amount of money, and just, I'm gonna throw round numbers to you. Scott County's prosecutor has 115, this is as of the end of the year, has $115,000 in the 4D incentive fund. The clerk has about 141,000, and the general can be used by anyone that has expenses relating to child support, whether it be for renovation, equipment, perhaps even paying health insurance.
So that goes back to their budget, the prosecutor's budget.
Correct. And I find in some counties, the amount's very low. But for a county the size of Scott, there's a significant amount of money. I think Chris knows it, and Chris mentioned when he was here about the vehicle. He can take some of that 4D incentive money towards the vehicle, but only a percentage that he can justify is related to child support. And I've gone to some counties and I'll say, ooh, the clerks, maybe nothing in it. Well, they use it. Some counties, I think, figure, what can I use it for? Well, I'm gonna give Jeff Dawson a pat on the back. Jeff will help a clerk. Indirectly would help an auditor say, you tell your clerk or your prosecutor if they need new equipment, new furniture. I didn't know about the vehicle, but it makes sense as long as a percentage can be attributed to child support time. So that's
why you said that.
yeah, I listen, as being a councilman, typically knew the prosecutor, Pat Harrington, would come to me, come to us, what is it now? Well, this is what I need, but by the way, I've got 4D incentive money, I've got diversion money, I won't touch the general fund for anything. And I said, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
He knew how to play the game.
That's always good to have your homework.
Sure. All right, well, hey, I appreciate your time,
All right.
and
Nice
if you
to
need
meet
one
you.
of us to come to another meeting, we can do so.
I think we need that, I think,
I
you know,
think we
if
should be
Jennifer's
okay.
comfortable with
I will
it.
definitely get back with you.
We'll be in touch. Sure.
All right,
Thank you all very much.
Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Got
Jim.
nice royalties.
Thank you.
All right, the next thing's up is Marty Randall's position. What's up with that?
Well, that was just one of the things the girls in the office, because there's a lot of traffic coming in. We're getting new subdivisions, we're getting new things around the county, and Marty's gonna leave at the end of the year. And I've got a couple of my girls that are coming, a little bit of a panic attack area, thinking, what are we gonna do when Marty's not here? Cause you know, Marty's been out this week, and there's been a lot of people knocking on our window, and we're like,
Yeah.
let's not wait till November to do something.
I knew a few months ago that Marty this is gonna be her last year, so.
Yeah.
I don't know if we've officially said it in a meeting or anything, but me being on the area plan, board, we've talked about it. But the commissioners will have to decide how to handle this and then go to the council with what I'm thinking. And what I'm thinking is that come sometime around September, that we hire a part-time or a full-time person to sit with Marty and have her start schooling whoever that person is to, replace her, because Marty's got a lot of stuff in her head that a lot of people don't have, and I don't know if she'll ever put it on paper, so that's my thought. I mean, I don't know what your guys'
Well, I mentioned back whenever, Marty was, had to take off some time.
Yeah.
For health purposes, they put us in a great big bind. I'm not sure we should wait till September. But I definitely agree that we need to go ahead and start looking and making out some type of, job description. And,
Do you need us to forward, is there a job?
There's a job description.
yeah,
us to
but I
forward
mean,
that
we
to you?
probably
Do
need
you
to
wanna
review that.
Well, I say September, because if we bring somebody in the 1st of September, that's September, October, November, that's 4 months. If you can't catch on to a job in 4 months, then you probably.
I haven't caught on to my job in 4 months,
Well-
let me just tell you. I'll say it, I don't care if that's on or not.
I understand that, but I mean, still yet, there's times that can't be here, she's sick, she's working part-time. And I have heard a lot of complaints, not toward Marty, but to the fact that they couldn't get here when somebody was here in order for them to get a permit. So that's why I think we need to act a little quicker than September.
And we're gonna change it to a full-time position.
Probably not. I mean, I think it stays like it is, but it's because her and Ben have, I mean, they have it all covered, I mean, but, it may be a different animal because, like I said, Marty probably cheats herself, I think, on her salary, her time, because, I'll call her and it'll be on one of her off days, but she's in here.
She does a lot of extra, she does.
Yeah.
At night, she's in here,
Yes, she is.
and I don't know we're ever gonna get that from another person, so.
Well, yeah, most people wanna get paid for the work they do,
Yeah.
so.
So anyway, Greg, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's, the job shadowing is a must, whatever timeline is on that. And then, the job description, I think we need to look at that. And talking about it being another possibly a different animal, I agree with that. We may have to look at this being a full-time position because I would like to take a look at the job description and kind of put some additional duties on that. One of the things that I think is a good opportunity for us to start looking at is a possible code enforcement officer. We really need somebody out in the county. I have more calls than anything relating to just run down properties, junk, trash, whatever. And so, I think this is an opportunity for us to, have somebody out there taking a look at things, working with people, and trying to come up with solutions for cleaning their properties up. Right now around the county, there's a lot of situations where we may have a $300,000+ property, and next to it, we have something that, I wouldn't.
It's not.
Resemble a
My cat
junkyard.
and dogs. And it's just fact, folks. I mean, so
It is.
we run into things a lot of times where we have some hardship cases. I get that. Everybody's deserving of that. But what I'd like to have is, and Marty just doesn't have the time. She just doesn't have time. So if we have somebody in here, maybe full-time getting in, and has, more hours and able to go out and maybe work with our citizens to come up with a plan, and things. And so that would be my goal with this position, is to kind of add a twist to that, and put that on the job description as well.
I'd agree with that, but where I'd like to see us do something and actually maybe kind of piggyback off of both the cities is that both the cities came up with some sort of ordinance that actually tells people that your grass can't be so high, your trash can't be exposed to the roadway. I mean, there's all sorts of things that they have, and yes, they have both of them have code enforcement officers. I always said two things. First of all, the county's a little different animal than a city, but it's not in a sense. You still need to have, in my opinion, a clean environment where it's not gonna have rodents and trash blowing all over the place and whatnot, but on the flip side of that, and this is where I always get caught up, is that if a person owns a property, they own the property, and, they ought to be able to do whatever they, 99.9% what they they wanna do on their own property, but.
We're certainly not an HOA, you know, I think a lot of people get confused that county, you know, housing authorities or even city, you know, are an HOA. It's not, but there are issues that arise that do need to be addressed, but it's, you know, it's a little.
It's a fine line.
It is a fine line.
So I'm exactly for what both of you guys are talking about. I don't think the next person we have in that position will, for it being a part-time and so many hours a week, we're not gonna get that from somebody else, so we're probably gonna have to look at something, and again, it'll have to go to council to approve for a, you know, whatever the plan comes out, but, and I don't know how the code enforcement officer that, you know, if we go with something like that, which I think we need, because right now, you know, me personally, when I see a house or get a phone call like what you're talking about, you know, I immediately call, you know, the health department, and Tim will go out, or, you know, if it's trash or something, he can go out and say, hey, you need to get it cleaned up, he'll send them a letter, yada yada, but there's no, well, I won't say there's no consequence, because we had those hearings, you know, a couple of years ago where we had 3 properties that we flat out were telling them, you can't do this, and we had a public hearing in here, and told them you have till this day.
Those are really egregious situations where basically the property is either uninhabitable or is being used as like a informal kind of like dumping ground.
Yeah.
So, and there's a lot of solid waste, meaning like trash.
Yeah, you were involved in that, so, but anyway, we just need to come up with an ordinance, maybe we talk with some other counties, see what they have, but there's a lot of properties out here that, in everybody's district, that probably needs a good cleaning, and their neighbors would probably appreciate it as well, so.
Well, I think that's the beauty of this new position, for them to dig into some of that, and, you know, what is the tipping point from a HOA to, you know, ordinances that need to be carried out, so.
Somehow the cities are able to push people to, you know, follow their ordinances, whether it's, you know, put it on, you know, them sending the city workers down there to do something and billing their, you know, putting on their taxes or whatever they're doing. I don't know how they're doing it, but we need to figure out what they're doing, take some of their good, maybe not some of the bad.
It's all through like the area plan pretty much, and right now I think we have the exact same setup as at least Scottsburg, because the area plans used to be one and the same board until like 2017 is when I think they divided. Our ordinance mimics theirs because it's we were established under the same guidelines and rules. So I don't think there's any difference in terms of what we have authorized or not authorized. There just may be a difference in terms of, you know, what we are enforcing or what we've allocated towards enforcement, because that's another thing, like having enough resources there. You know, a city usually has a little bit more resources in their like building commission or building authority department to enforce those types of things.
Okay, so I guess, we wanna pull the job description and look at it and see what it entails, and maybe, and the hours and stuff, and then see what we can come up with for a new position. Or are you talking, Greg, are you talking about 2 different types of positions? You talking a clerical person in an office and another code enforcement officer, the one that would go out and make that distinction, or knock on somebody's door?
Yeah, it'd be nice if we just could combine those duties into one.
I agree with that.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say this, the only concern I would have about someone being, and I'll just shut up because I'm gonna get in trouble. I'd be concerned about people going and knocking on somebody's door to hand them a thing saying you need to clean this up. I mean, some people could probably handle that, some people may not be able to handle that.
That's true, it'd take the right person to be able to do it, there's no question.
Because, you know, you can knock on somebody's door and say, hey, clean your crap up, and they may send you to the car, you know.
Well, and Marty and I talked about it, and, you know, a lot of times retired police officers, so the research suggests makes a good code enforcement officer.
Yeah,
But,
somebody's got an authority figure.
You know, but I don't know, maybe we could.
Maybe that's a
could-
part-time position.
Yeah.
Where we say, okay, we need somebody that's 2 days a week or 1 day a week, and
Yeah.
here's your list of houses you know you need to go, or properties or whatever, and say, here, you know, so maybe that part is a part-time, so.
And that's, yeah, I mean, and that's something that we could look at as well.
But I do know that, and everybody's got it, I mean, and everybody isn't the same person, so, I mean, there's some people live differently than other people, and they're comfortable in their environment, and just because we're not, doesn't mean that we have to, you know, change their thing, so. All right, let's move on, cause I'm gonna beat Randy's time here. Empower Progress,
I have not made any,
good.
so we will bring that back in 2 weeks.
So, all right, transfer station permit, is this, would this be the second reading?
No,
I
this
think
is
those-
about the,
We set
or
those first.
IDM.
Oh, yeah, this is about like Greg.
This is
and-
I'm
about-
sorry, I
Yeah.
probably should
we-
put IDM on there.
We'll touch base again at our next meeting, but it sounds like
We're working on it.
We're
working on it. We did confirm some things that we had questions about, but how we
Okay.
go about correcting.
All right, so I guess we'll move on to the next one. Consideration of regular or special invoices.
Well, we
It's
don't
the
have any,
claims.
Mandy's been out 2 days, so
That's fine.
she's been sick and.
All right, so then, I guess it's not on the agenda, but I'm gonna amend the agenda to approve the minutes, or do you have the minutes?
I do not have them.
So we'll just table that till next meeting. All right, without that, you got anything you wanna talk
Well,
about?
we could amend the agenda to approve, the purchases, expense report. Mandy sent that out.
So it'd be the regular invoices?
Yeah.
Okay, so she did get those
They're not
Friday
the
then?
special.
Yeah.
Well, it says regular, so. All right, I'll entertain a motion to accept the regular invoices, the claims, I'm gonna call them, so.
Claim report, yeah.
Has everybody had an opportunity to look at those?
I'll make a motion to accept the claim.
Randy's made a motion to accept the claims.
I'll say.
Greg seconds that, and I'll make that unanimous, so. So, anyway, I think that's all I've got, but Greg, or, Randy, you got something you wanna talk about or not? Bring up or not?
How close are you to beating my ode?
You can't do it, so.
I don't know, I could talk about something.
Not for very long, though. Greg?
Yeah, and I hate to break somebody's record, but, there's a couple of things that I just wanted to throw out there right now. Since we kinda got into ordinances a little bit and such, and this is probably going back and working with our sheriff's department and such, but, I was seeing today that we had another, commercial semi-truck out on Lombard County roads, out on New York Road. I see it all the time. I mean, they do tremendous amount of damage on our culverts and throughout the county and pavement and such, and then just getting into personal property. I mean, I watched one And he did a heck of a job. He backed up on Boatman for about 2 miles.
I saw that.
Yeah.
6. I mean, you know, I've had him parked in front of my house, and I can't even leave work. And I walked out and said, "What do you do?" Well, you know, they've got this thing right here, and they're trying to get the Pepsi or wherever. And you can't get the Pepsi on those kind of roads. So.
Is it always Pepsi? It's always Pepsi.
That particular time, it was Pepsi, but.
When they're on Terry Road, they're looking for Pepsi, I'm telling you.
But, and I get that, a lot of communities throughout Indiana that I work with are, they're always struggling with that, and GPS is a, you know, a big blame for all this, but, you know, I'd like for us to get to a point where, you know, we really get stiff with fines, for these guys wanting to take shortcuts, you know.
Historically, we have only ever prohibited, when we've had basically like a detour, because of an existing state project.
I understand that well, yeah.
If they were on a road that was, I mean, we did have some from last year that
We had several in the last 3 years when we were
did
constantly
prohibit,
having
like through,
detours.
basically like, I think it's semi-tractor trailer through traffic. We didn't prohibit like people who were living in the county, right, from driving just the truck, you know, to their house, but if it was just they're coming through the county, trying to find a way around, we did prohibit that, but, again, the enforcement side of that, I mean, the enforcement side of that is a sheriff's department kind of
Right, and I think
question.
you need to really,
because obviously I think if it's an ordinance violation, it'd be a situation where I would probably be representing the county in that particular, you know, civil citation action. But I will never know about it if a ticket is never written by the enforcer. So I don't know were they on a road that we had previously told them that they couldn't have been on? Okay.
no, it's just random,
Okay.
yeah.
My whole thing here and being 30 years in the trucking business with multiple drivers, and paying several claims for drivers driving through somebody's ditch or tearing a culvert up or, trees in somebody's yard or whatever. I'm gonna say that, and I saw the pictures of the truck today, I'm gonna say that if we have a semi that is stuck in a turn or has damaged, whether it's our culvert, our roadway, our ditch, whether he's dug, you know, his tires into our grass or whatever, if there's a police officer on scene, then somebody needs to write, you know, a claim.
That would be more like an incident
And
report
then-
type issue, they'd have to let us know.
Cause I get a phone call all the time going, hey, your driver was down here on XY highway and turned off and thought he was a turn around in my drive and he's tore my stuff up, and I paid upwards of, well, paid $6,000 or $7,000 a couple of times to repair somebody's landscape. So, I'm saying that if these guys, that's how you deter people from doing it, is that, you know, their company's going to tell them, do not do this, do not get off the roadway. I mean, and you're right, GPS and there is a GPS version for truck drivers, but that version is about a $200 more than just the one you pull up on your phone, so.
Yeah.
A lot of them don't have them, a lot of them do, but I will say this, anytime we have a truck that is stuck in the ditch, whatever, there should be some sort of report sent to the highway department so that Kevin can get an estimate on how much it's gonna cost to fix the thing. And I'm saying, If they tore the dirt up and everything else, send them a bill, cause they'll pay it.
Yeah, because, you know, we have some low utility lines on some of these county roads and stuff too, so, I mean, they can just do tremendous amount of damage. So I just wanted to bring that up, and I have people routinely reach out to me on those issues as well. And one other thing, sorry.
Paying them or something?
So, one of the things that I'd like to start working on and you know, obviously with our council and both our cities is economic development. You know, in the past, we did have a board, that board's went away over time. We have
I
got.
think I'm on that board, but there's not a board.
Right. So we need to get back to that. We've got it's very competitive. We're getting passed up every day out there because we don't have anybody out there fighting for Scott County. We've been working with One Southern Indiana. They're a great resource, but they are not our economic development board. One of the things shortly after I became commissioner is I reached out to our Economic Development Commission person out of Indianapolis and had a long talk with him, and it all goes back to encouraging us to get an economic development board going again. I've had a lot of people over that time that's reached out and said, hey, we want to make a significant investment, or we know somebody's looking to make that investment in Scott County. Who do we talk to?
Didn't they phase out economic development districts?
No, well, I don't know about over the state, but we have, our board's still out there. We still have money in an account someplace. We just kind of froze it.
But I think that the economic development districts themselves, I think the legislation was phased, I have to go look at it.
Well,
I know the commission, like the Indiana Commission still exists, and they still do a lot of stuff. I just don't, like back then it was like, you had a specific district, right, and there were like tax incentives for businesses that were in the district, plus employees could take advantage of those types of things. I can't remember what they did with, they like revamped it at some point, maybe they redid it and there's a new version of it.
well, maybe. I know, like, from Indianapolis, their standpoint was encouraging us to get an economic development board. I know, Wendy Chester with One Southern Indiana has encouraged us to get an economic development board. I see Johnny out there, Johnny along with, Mayor Amy, Chris Evans, we attended, their last, meeting down at Ivy Tech. We recognize these are the things that we have to get in place, and as the infrastructure in Southern Indiana continues to get bigger and improve, we have got to get together here to get ourselves ready. Those are one of the things that we talk about when it comes to code enforcement, those kind of things. We need to start putting significant lipstick on what we have here in Scott County and start getting our hand up and quit getting passed by. You know, the economic development, like I say, is very competitive, and there's a lot of good people in the business who's got their hand up getting stuff in all the time. We don't have that. So my goal would be to find a person, quite honestly, it'd be a full-time person with the county and both cities, you know, coming on board and helping with that salary. You know, that person's reaching out and they're working because we all win. If we can get something in Austin, it helps us in Scottsburg and it helps the county.
Absolutely.
If we're doing something in Scottsburg, it's gonna help those folks down up there. So we're all a winner, but we gotta get people on board to get this thing going. And so what I'd like to do is start reaching out to those cities and seeing what kind of support we can get. You know, and then however we form a board from there, whoever needs to be on there and however that looks like, that's another question or story here to work on. But anyway, that's the goal, is to get out there and start driving.
Well, it's hard to find the time to volunteer your time whenever, you know, you have a full-time job. So, I mean, it needs to be a full-time paid position.
Yeah.
It honestly does.
Oh, that does. Yeah, it was in the past, but just don't think we had too much energy.
Well, yeah, and you know, when I look at things today, when you look at some of, like I say, the infrastructure improvements and the money the state has been investing in southern Indiana, I mean, it's gonna come. It's gonna come. I mean, you see River Ridge and it's blowed up down there, for instance. You look at other areas that keep improving. We have got to start being a player and start attracting businesses because they're gonna get to a point down there where it's like, hey, they're gonna start picking and choosing. They're already starting to do that, say, well, that may not work for us, but if we've got somebody at the table that says, hey, that could be a good business in Scott County, and we've got somebody in there driving those discussions, I think it's a great position, and I think we could benefit, taxpayers of Scott County could benefit from it, and these are things that we've been missing out on, but right now is the time to get back up to play again, so.
Yep, I agree. On that note, a little bit off subject, but,
Trying to drag it out, aren't you?
well, yeah. But do we know whether or not the visitor commission has ever provided their,
Yes, they're folks.
the financials?
They
Yeah,
brought their checkbooks and things in. Now, the CDs have not been, taken care of. And that really kind of goes back to the treasurer. She needs to work with them on that. So,
But they have not provided that to the treasurer.
I don't know.
Well, they
I'm
were
not
to bring the books to the auditor's office.
They
so-
brought some of their ledgers, they brought their checkbook.
Okay, I think if maybe
They should be bringing the CDs as well, right?
there's well, at least the information on
Right.
how to access the accounts and that type of thing. I mean, I don't know if they brought those things there.
They did not, or they have not brought it to me. Russ at the bank is very involved in that too.
He's on that.
He's on that board, he's very involved with that, so I mean, I think he and Missy work fairly well together, that they can maybe work together on that.
Yeah, I had a discussion with him on the CDs, and it's just, to me, I think it's a terminology thing. There needs to be, however they're described on the CD, it needs to be Scott County government or whatever, and then visitors commission, because, you know.
Zach, would you mind writing a letter, giving them some type of final notice that do this by this date? Because obviously it's not of great importance to them.
Yeah, I can. You want me to write it to the visitor commission, like board?
Yes.
Okay.
That gives them that time frame when they need to have this turned in, because it should have already been done.
So the only books you got was the checkbook?
Checkbook, and then there was like 3 or 4 pages out of a ledger. I've got them right here, not the whole thing.
Okay. Alright.
And in my opinion,
You done?
no, there should have never been CDs and all that stuff, because
Actually,
if that program was run the way it should be run, it should have been emptied out every year.
There was a reasoning for that. The reasoning I got was that when the tornado happened in Henryville, that board decided that they needed at least a year of income or whatever revenue set aside in case, you know, something happened. I said a hurricane, a tornado.
Well, we had a hurricane.
Yeah, I had to. But, they had a year's set aside in the bank so that if, you know, our hotels got wiped out or whatever, they would still be able to function without having to wait for them to rebuild and lose a year or two of revenue. They'd had it. So it was a rainy day fund, I guess.
And I think, Mike, cause I was told the same thing, and I think after talking to the visitor commission lady, Erin, in Jackson County, she said that's actually not a way that should be done, cause she said that's not what that money was, designed for. That was not the right, I mean, their heart was in the right place, it just wasn't doing the right thing. She said if anything like what that were to happen, you need to go capture like FEMA money or something like that. It's not like the visitor
Oh, I
commission money
get,
should be.
I get that, and
So,
I'm like Randy, I think
Yeah.
if you, after expenses, you ought to give all your money away.
Right.
But when I found out that some of the organizations that were asking for money, they were only asking for a certain amount, and they gave them that amount. So it wasn't like, hey, you know, we're gonna give you more than what you're asking for.
Exactly.
But some of them, shouldn't have got it in the first place, and then again, I think they're bored with talking with some of them. They're kind of rallying like the redevelopment, saying, certain people are asking for money that fall under the criteria that should be. You know, cause maybe they're not eligible for the money, same way with regional development or redevelopment. You know, I know people got money from the redevelopment over the years that, was it exactly redevelopment to give them the money? Was it, you know, did it fall under the criteria for their organization? I don't know, so. Randy, I'll just give it to you anyway, so. But I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Yeah. Randy makes a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Greg seconds that, and I'll make that unanimous, so. Kill Luke.